Mark Hamill has always known the ways of the Force. And now he's giving fans what they've been waiting decades for, the real return of Luke Skywalker. After teasing fans with a brief glimpse of Luke in 2015's The Force Awakens, Mark is bringing his Jedi alter ego back to the big screen in a big way in The Last Jedi. But while he still adores the franchise that made him a universal name, there's one thing missing as the film is set to be released on Thursday: his close friend Carrie Fisher. Indeed, nearly a year since her tragic death aged 60, Mark is still struggling to come to terms with her loss. It's all the more poignant as he knows this will be the last time the world ever sees Carrie as Princess Leia, the role that made her one of cinema's most iconic women. "I'm angry because she should be here now, looking forward to the next one, flipping the bird and making me laugh," he says. "I still can't get my head around the fact she is gone because she was always so vital and so strong." Carrie had just finished filming Episode 8, The Last Jedi, when she suffered a heart attack on a transatlantic flight from London to LA on last December 23. She died in hospital 4 days later, followed by her mum Debbie Reynolds, the next day. The new film pays a poignant dedication to its princess, but Mark, 66, adds how tragic it is that she won't reprise her role as the now General Leia Organa B in Episode 9, due out in 2019. Carrie had finished what was required of her in terms of filming, and as far as I know nothing has been altered, he says. But the tragic part of it is that there was so much planned for her in the next one, Episode 9. But I think people will really be delighted with her performance in The Last Jedi. The pair had been close friends since meeting on the original 1977 film, and Mark had supported her during her long battle with bipolar and drug addiction. Earlier this year, the coroner ruled that sleep apnea may have played a role in her death, adding that she also had cocaine and heroin in her system, although it was not clear what effect they had. But while her loss is weighing heavy on his mind, Mark at least has the love of his enormous fan base, or the UPF. Ultra-passionate fans, as he calls them. "The fans are great and so supportive to the point that I'll often want to watch the audience more than a Star Wars movie," he says. "It's so rare you see so many people transfixed with joy at one time." He adds that many of them can outsmart him when it comes to their Star Wars knowledge. He says, "They know more about Star Wars than I do. I constantly get myself into trouble because they know all the details I never could. They get frustrated with me when I don't know the names of every droid and alien." And he shamefully admits that even his son showed him up for his lack of knowledge. "My son gave me a Star Wars quiz and I flunked it." Mark chuckles. In his defense, he points out that many of the creatures weren't named until after they'd finished filming the original trilogy. "Most of them didn't have names when we were filming," he laughs. "It was the medical droid or the dustbin robot. They were only given names when they were made into toys." Speaking of the originals, shockingly, Mark says he hasn't watched them since they was first shown in the cinemas, in 1977, 1980 and 1983. He says, "I actually haven't watched those movies since they were in theaters. I've never watched them at home or anything like that, which is odd to some people, but it's true. I really haven't." However, Mark, who has been married to dental hygienist Marilu for almost as long as he's been in Star Wars, did feel the need to lose a bit of weight before returning to the big screen. He'd lost 8 pounds training before The Force Awakens, even though it's just a brief cameo, and had to keep it off for this one. But the biggest change is having to grow a bushy beard. "I like beards on other people, but I'm not a beard person myself," he says. "It takes me forever to grow one, then every sip of anything is on it. I go to sleep and my hand brushes it and I think a raccoon has got through the door or a homeless person has wandered into the bedroom. I'll never get used to having a beard." Mark and Carrie are joined once more in Episode 8 by the new generation. Brits John Boyega, 25, and Daisy Ridley, 25, as Finn and Rey, and Californian Adam Driver, 34, as Kylo Ren. Fans have been speculating about whether Rey will turn out to be Luke's child. But just like with the originals, new owners Disney insist secrecy is key. Mark, now 3 years older than Sir Alec Guinness when he first played Obi-Wan Kenobi, says, "These people don't fool around. If I let something slip about these movies I'd be run through with a lightsaber." Secrecy and retaining that element of surprise is a bigger issue than ever. But even back when we did The Empire Strikes Back, only the director, the scriptwriter and I knew Darth Vader was Luke's father right up until release. I didn't even tell my wife. Californian-born Mark, dad to Nathan, 38, Griffin, 34, and Chelsea, 29, may play one of the globe's most iconic characters, but it nearly all ended as soon as it began. In January 1977, 5 months before the first film was released in the US, Mark was famously injured in a car crash, fracturing his nose and cheekbone. He was rushed into theater where surgeons used cartilage from his ear to rebuild his nose. He went on to star in The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, but also fell in love with writing and voiceover work. He says some fans even know him better for voicing Batman's nemesis the Joker than as Jedi Luke. And despite recent roles in TV's The Flash and hit 2014 movie Kingsman, The Secret Service, Mark admits he often finds the limelight too bright. "I appreciate the fans but I can't say I enjoy the fame, no," he says. "I much prefer voiceover work and the anonymity that comes with that. I find I don't need applause or fame and for that reason Star Wars is often a little too high profile for me. It's overwhelming. I'm just here trying not to mess it up." He adds that his family find his fame amusing. They think it's pretty hilarious. "I'm inclined to agree," he laughs. Indeed, he goes as far as to say last year's Rogue One, a Star Wars story, is his favorite, because I'm not in it, and dismisses the idea of Luke having his own prequel like the forthcoming Han Solo film, saying, "It'd be pretty boring." And he admits he never realized Star Wars would become the global phenomenon it is today. The films, including the often criticized prequels, has grossed $7.3 billion, £5.5 billion, adjusted for inflation, making it the third biggest franchise behind Marvel and Harry Potter. Disney bought George Lucas's production company Lucasfilm for $4 billion in 2012, and J.J. Abrams' Episode 7, The Force Awakens went on to smash box office records when it was released in December 2015, making $1 billion, £750 million, at the box office in 12 days. Plans for a series of spin-off films, plus existing TV, toy and merchandising tie-ins means the Star Wars empire is worth an estimated $10 billion, £7.5 billion, to Disney, according to Forbes. It's a far cry from when Star Wars was first screened in the US on May 25, 1977. The first one only opened in 32 theaters. There was no TV ad campaign. "We didn't even have a poster for the opening because they couldn't agree on one," says Mark. "It was only after it opened and because of the fan reaction that all that came together. If it wasn't for the fans none of this would be happening now. It's all about the fans." It was a sentiment shared by Carrie to the end. Just before her death she said, "It's about family, that's what's so powerful about it. They're showing the films to their children and their grandchildren, they're sharing something that moved them as a child. And that's why to Mark and all fans, she's now the Disney's best-loved princess."